Welcome back to Jameel Cast, where we explore ideas and innovations shaping the future of our world. Join us as we uncover perspectives and insights at the intersection of purpose and progress, featuring voices from across Abdul Latif Jameel's international network of businesses. This is Alex, your AI host. Today, we're taking a plunge into the critical issue of urban wastewater management, and particularly how the EU is setting new directives to address this growing challenge. And joining me, as always, is my brilliant AI co-host, Omar.
Thanks, Alex. It's a topic that touches on so many vital areas, from environmental health to sustainable urban development.
Absolutely. And to help us unpack, we're delighted to also have our AI guest, Sophie, with us to help navigate these waters. Sophie, let's start with the big picture. Why is wastewater reuse becoming such a critical global concern right now?
Well, Alex, the world is facing increasing water scarcity, driven by climate change, population growth, and rapid urbanization. Wastewater, traditionally seen as a mere byproduct, is now recognized as a valuable resource. Reusing it can alleviate water stress, especially in urban areas where demand is high, and support a more sustainable water management approach.
So, it's not just about managing waste, but about proactively recapturing a valuable resource. That's a significant shift in perspective, isn't it?
Precisely. Historically, our track record hasn't been great. The UN Environment Programme estimates only about 11% of global domestic and industrial wastewater produced is reused, with an estimated 48% still being released untreated into the environment. It's a huge missed opportunity and a major environmental risk.
Wow, almost half still untreated globally. That's a stark figure. And what about within the EU specifically?
In the EU, it is estimated that at least 1 billion cubic metres of treated urban wastewater is reused annually. While that sounds good, the potential for reuse is actually 6 times higher. This means over 80% of wastewater in the EU is either wasted or discharged without any beneficial use.
That's an incredible amount of wasted potential. So, addressing this clearly isn't just an environmental nicety, it's a fundamental necessity.
Absolutely. Discharging untreated wastewater not only wastes a crucial resource, but also poses significant environmental and health risks. It's against this backdrop that the EU has really stepped up.
And that brings us to the new Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, doesn't it? What's the core aim of this new EU directive?
Totally with you, Alex. But before we dive into the specifics of the new directive, Sophie, could you clarify something for our listeners? When we talk about wastewater in this context, what exactly are we referring to? It feels like a broad term.
That's a great question, Omar, and it's essential for framing our discussion. When we refer to wastewater, we're generally talking about urban wastewater, also known as municipal wastewater or sewage. This is the waste stream generated from residential, commercial, and institutional sources within urban areas.
So, essentially anything that goes down the drain in a town or city then?
That's right, Alex. It's the water that flows through our sewer systems, either combined carrying both stormwater and wastewater, or separate carrying only wastewater before it reaches a wastewater treatment plant. There are 4 main types of urban wastewater.
4 types? Could you elaborate on those classifications for us?
Of course. First, we have domestic wastewater from households and residential areas, including water from sinks, showers, toilets, washing machines, and other household activities. Then, there's commercial and institutional wastewater from sources such as office buildings, schools, hospitals, restaurants, and other commercial and public facilities. Light industrial wastewater may also be discharged into the municipal wastewater system. Finally, stormwater and urban runoff from roads, parking lots, and other surfaces can also enter the municipal wastewater system through combined sewer systems or drainage channels.
So, it's a mix of everything that's discarded from daily urban life, from personal hygiene to what runs off the streets. It really underscores the complexity of managing it all, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Understanding these different sources is key to comprehending the challenges and opportunities of effective wastewater management and why it's so critical for urban sustainability.
Building on that, Sophie, since we've established what urban wastewater entails, could you walk us through the primary risks associated with mismanaging it? What are the real-world implications when things go wrong?
Absolutely. Mismanaging wastewater isn't just inefficient, it carries significant health and environmental dangers. Urban wastewater often contains organic material like human feces, fats, and food waste, plus soaps. This organic content is consumed by bacteria.
So, bacteria are naturally breaking down some of what's in the water.
That's right. In oxygen-rich environments, aerobic bacteria break down organic waste, forming new bacterial cells and dissolve salts. However, if untreated wastewater is left undisturbed and oxygen runs out, anaerobic bacteria take over, releasing gases like hydrogen sulfide and methane.
And that leads to what you'd call dead zones, correct?
Exactly. When anaerobic bacteria dominate and all oxygen is consumed, the water becomes septic. This is incredibly harmful to fish and other oxygen-dependent life forms, often creating those dead zones you mentioned, where little marine life can survive.
Beyond the environmental impact on aquatic life, what about human health? That's got to be a major concern with untreated wastewater.
It's a huge concern. Wastewater can contain harmful bacteria, viruses, and disease, causing pathogens that can pollute beaches and contaminate shellfish. While some bacteria, like fecal coliform, are usually harmless, other pathogens like typhoid or hepatitis B can cause severe infections through direct contact or by contaminating our water supply.
And I imagine it's not just organic matter we're talking about. There are other harmful substances too.
Indeed. Depending on its source, wastewater often contains inorganic materials like minerals, metals such as copper, lead, and zinc, which don't break down easily. Plus, nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen in excessive amounts can cause eutrophication, where the water becomes overly enriched.
Eutrophication, that leads to issues like algal blooms, doesn't it?
Precisely. Eutrophication leads to an overgrowth of plants and algae, which then reduces oxygen availability, altering habitats and potentially endangering various marine species by disrupting the delicate ecosystem balance.
It's certainly a cascading effect, Sophie, and a pretty grim picture if wastewater isn't managed properly. So, given all these risks you've outlined, what then are the key elements of ensuring effective urban wastewater management?
Well, Alex, effective wastewater management is absolutely critical for sustainable urban water. By treating and reusing wastewater, communities can dramatically enhance water security. By that I mean safety and supply. It significantly reduces our overall demand for fresh water, conserving those most precious supplies for essential uses like drinking and domestic use.
So it's not just about avoiding the bad, but actively promoting the good, especially in places where water is already scarce.
Precisely, Omar. In water-stressed regions, treated wastewater becomes a reliable alternative. We're talking about using it for agricultural irrigation, industrial processes, and even replenishing groundwater aquifers. It takes pressure off those strained freshwater sources.
That makes a lot of sense. And what about preventing contamination? How does effective management play into keeping our freshwater clean?
Effective treatment stops untreated wastewater from being discharged into our water bodies. This directly protects and conserves freshwater resources from contamination, safeguarding quality and availability for human consumption and agriculture. It also minimises impacts on aquatic ecosystems and, crucially, public health.
So it's a preventative measure, but you also mentioned resource recovery earlier. Are there tangible resources we can pull from wastewater?
Absolutely. Advanced wastewater treatment can recover valuable resources. We're talking about nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen for agriculture, and even biogas for energy production. This resource recovery really boosts sustainable water management and further reduces our reliance on freshwater.
It sounds like a holistic approach, aligning with broader sustainability goals. Does this tie into things like the UN Sustainable Development Goals?
It does, very much so. This active wastewater management aligns perfectly with sustainable development principles. It promotes responsible water use and reduces strain on natural sources. It's inextricably linked to goals like Clean Water and Sanitation SDG 6, Climate Action SDG 13, Affordable and Clean Energy SDG 7, and Zero Hunger SDG 2.
That's a powerful connection to the SDGs. It sounds like a lot of thought goes into these frameworks. Building on that, Sophie, how does the EU's new directive specifically address and perhaps revolutionise aspects of wastewater management we've been discussing?
The new EU directive is actually a significant step. It's really a revised version of the 1991 directive, but it substantially strengthens protection for human health and the environment. We're talking about cleaner rivers, lakes and seas across Europe by mandating more thorough treatment and tackling emerging pollutants.
So it's not entirely new, but a more robust evolution. What are some of the key tangible changes that this revised directive introduces?
Well, it means greater nutrient removal from wastewater and new standards for micropollutants. particularly from pharmaceuticals and cosmetics. Crucially, it mandates systematic monitoring of microplastics and forever chemicals like PFAS, which will really improve our understanding of their dissemination.
That's a huge step, especially with those forever chemicals. Are there specific targets or timelines for treatment levels that facilities will need to meet?
Absolutely. By 2035, all urban agglomerations of 1,000 population equivalent or more must apply secondary treatment. Then, tertiary and quaternary treatments for nutrient and micropollutant removal respectively. They have harmonised thresholds and deadlines, kicking in by 2039 and 2045 for larger plants.
I remember hearing something about certain companies being required to pay for water treatments. Is that actually true?
Yes, it is. Virginijus Sinkevicius, the European Commissioner for Environment, Oceans and Fisheries, explained this as the polluter pays principle. Essentially, industries identified as major polluters, like pharmaceuticals and cosmetics, will now be responsible for covering at least 80% of the costs associated with quaternary treatment. It puts the financial burden directly on those contributing the most to the pollution. This is carried out through extended producer responsibility.
That's a significant financial shift, placing the burden directly on producers. But with all these new requirements and deadlines, Sophie, it sounds like there could be some pretty substantial implementation challenges, particularly for certain areas. What are you seeing there?
You're spot on, Alex. The biggest impact will likely be on smaller towns and cities. The directive now extends to urban areas with 1,000 population equivalent or more, down from 2,000. This means a lot more municipalities will need to implement at least secondary treatment by 2035.
So, a much wider net then. And what about the more advanced treatments? Does that apply to these smaller areas as well, or is it more tiered?
Initially, tertiary treatment is mandatory for larger plants. However, smaller plants, between 10,000 and 150,000 population equivalent, might also need to implement tertiary treatment by 2045, depending on their risk assessments. That will demand significant infrastructure upgrades and investment in advanced treatment technologies for many of these smaller communities.
That sounds like a considerable leap for places that might not have the resources of larger cities. Are there other new requirements that could pose a challenge for these smaller municipalities?
Definitely. Urban areas between 10,000 and 100,000 population equivalent will also need to develop integrated wastewater management plans if risk assessments indicate their combined sewer overflows or discharges are problematic. This involves analysing entire sewerage catchment areas, setting targets and implementing measures, which can be quite a challenge for municipalities with limited resources.
So, we've talked a lot about the challenges, especially for smaller municipalities, in meeting these new EU standards. It sounds like a pretty heavy lift for many of them. Building on that, Sophie, how are other countries or regions outside of the EU approaching this complex issue of urban wastewater management? Are there any models or lessons we can draw from?
That's an interesting question, Omar. While the full impact of the EU's directive is yet to be truly felt, we do see several countries globally implementing policies to tackle urban wastewater management. These are often on a smaller scale than the EU's comprehensive approach, but they offer valuable insights nonetheless.
Interesting. So they're not necessarily as broad or as stringent as what the EU is proposing, but they're still making significant strides.
Absolutely. What's often common, though, is a focus on specific challenges, whether it's nutrient pollution in a sensitive watershed or water scarcity in arid regions, leading to more localised policy development.
It sounds like a more incremental approach compared to the EU's. Given these varying strategies, what do you think is the biggest takeaway for EU policymakers as they watch these other regions develop their own solutions? We've talked broadly about different approaches. Could you share a specific example of a country that's really excelling in urban wastewater management?
Absolutely. When we talk about global leaders in urban wastewater reuse, Singapore immediately comes to mind. Their New Water initiative, launched in 2003, is a prime example of proactive water management.
New Water, that's a fascinating name. What exactly does it entail, and how has it contributed to Singapore's water security?
New Water involves treating used water with advanced membrane technologies and ultraviolet disinfection. This produces high-grade reclaimed water, primarily used industrially and to support reservoirs. It contributes to about 40% of Singapore's total water demand.
40%? That's quite significant. So they're essentially creating a new, reliable water source from their used water.
Precisely. The initiative has significantly reduced Singapore's reliance on imported water and enhanced its water security. It's a strategic move that addresses their water scarcity head-on and enhances their national water security in a very tangible way.
So it's not just about environmental protection, but also about national resilience. Are there specific aspects of the New Water programme that you think are particularly relevant for other countries facing similar water challenges?
Its success stems from a blend of technological innovation, long-term planning, and public acceptance, forged through consistent messaging and demonstrated reliability. The idea of transforming a waste product into a vital resource is the key takeaway.
That's a powerful transformation, taking something perceived as waste and turning it into a vital resource. Speaking of large-scale urban solutions, let's shift our focus to the United States. Sophie, how has a city like Los Angeles approached wastewater reuse, particularly given its frequent water challenges?
Los Angeles has made significant strides, specifically through its Hyperion water reclamation plant. They're treating wastewater to a high standard, producing recycled water for irrigation, industrial processes, and, crucially, groundwater recharge.
An interesting application. So it's not just about direct reuse, but also shoring up their natural water reserves.
Exactly. The city aims to recycle 100% of its wastewater by 2035. This directly reduces their dependence on imported water, which is a huge deal for a region prone to droughts, and significantly improves their water resilience.
So, much like Singapore, it's a strategic move to secure their water future. It seems like these urban hubs are really leading the charge in rethinking water. And speaking of pioneering cities, Sophie, could you tell us about Windhoek, Namibia, which I understand has been a leader in direct drinkable reuse for quite some time now?
Absolutely, Omar. Windhoek is a true pioneer in direct potable reuse, or DPR. They've been purifying treated wastewater to drinking water standards and directly adding it to the city's supply since 1968. That makes them one of the first cities globally to implement DPR.
Since 1968? That's decades before many places even considered large-scale wastewater recycling. What prompted such an innovative approach so early on in an African city?
It was born out of necessity, frankly. Windhoek is located in an arid region, so water scarcity has always been a pressing concern. This practice was crucial for managing their water security in an arid region and ensuring a reliable water supply for its residents.
So, it wasn't just a pilot project, but a fundamental part of their urban planning and water management strategy from the get-go.
Exactly. It's deeply embedded in their infrastructure and has been continuously refined over the years. Their extended experience offers invaluable lessons for other cities grappling with similar water challenges, demonstrating the long-term viability and safety of DPR.
That's really insightful. It shows how necessity truly can be the mother of invention, or in this case, invention and sustained innovation.
Let's turn our attention to Beijing, China. Sophie, how has the Chinese capital been addressing its severe water shortages, particularly concerning wastewater reuse?
Beijing has indeed been proactive, Omar. They've implemented numerous wastewater reuse projects to combat severe water scarcity. This treated wastewater isn't for drinking, though. It's primarily used for non-drinkable purposes like industrial cooling, landscape irrigation, and even maintaining water levels in lakes.
So, it's more about conserving drinkable water by utilizing recycled water for other essential urban functions. Can you give us an example of how this plays out in practice?
Absolutely. Take a wastewater treatment plant in Taiyuan City, for instance. It reclaims 20,000 cubic meters of water daily. This volume is then channeled directly into industrial and landscaping uses.
Are they making a measurable difference?
They certainly are. These initiatives are not just isolated projects. They're integral to how Beijing manages its water resources more sustainably. By diverting treated wastewater to these non-drinkable uses, it significantly reduces the demand on their freshwater reserves.
That truly highlights a different facet of water reuse. Building on this idea of encouraging innovation, Sophie, how does the new EU Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive fit into this global picture? And what role does the private sector play?
The directive isn't just about conservation, it actively fosters innovation in wastewater treatment, aiming for more sustainable and resilient water management. While governments set the frameworks, the private sector is crucial for implementation, bringing these ambitions to life with new technologies and infrastructure.
So it's a dynamic interplay between policy and practical application. Can you share some examples of how private companies are driving these advancements in wastewater solutions?
Absolutely. Companies like Almar Water Solutions, part of Jameel Environmental Services, are making significant strides. They're transforming water availability globally with sustainable infrastructure projects across various continents.
That's impressive. What are some of their flagship initiatives that really showcase this impact?
The Shuqaiq 3 independent water plant in Saudi Arabia is a prime example, one of the world's largest reverse osmosis desalination plants. They've also started work on the Zuluf water treatment plant in April 2024, adding substantial capacity for sustainable water solutions, and the Centinella mining project in Chile. Then there's the Muharraq plant in Bahrain, which recycles treated wastewater into high-grade reclaimed water.
It sounds like they're tackling water scarcity from multiple angles, from desalination to advanced wastewater treatment. Are they also active in regions facing significant development challenges?
Indeed. In Egypt, they're partnering with HA Utilities. This led to the acquisition of Ridgewood Group, which operates 58 desalination plants, providing 82,440 cubic meters of clean drinking water daily across the country.
These are tangible impacts on a massive scale. Sophie, we've discussed diverse approaches and now these large-scale private sector contributions. What are the overarching challenges remaining in pushing urban wastewater reuse further?
The main challenges are public perception, potential health risks, and the need for robust regulatory frameworks. We also need adequate investment in infrastructure, capacity building, and public awareness. Despite these, wastewater management remains critical for water security.
So it's about building trust and ensuring safety alongside technological advancement.
The new EU Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive marks a pivotal shift, transforming wastewater from a mere byproduct into a valuable resource. It sets ambitious targets for advanced treatment, crucially applying the polluter pays principle to industries contributing to micropollutants. This isn't just about cleaner water, it's a bold move towards circularity and resilience.
True. Cities globally, from Singapore's Newater to Windhoek's pioneering direct potable reuse, show what's possible. The EU is now embedding this innovative mindset into legislation, proving that robust regulation, coupled with private sector ingenuity, is vital for a water-secure future.
That brings us to the end of another insightful episode. Thank you for joining us, Sophie, for shedding light on such a critical topic.
And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. You've been listening to Jameel Cast, the official podcast of Abdul Latif Jameel. For more insights and conversations shaping our future, follow us wherever you get your podcasts or visit alj.com to read our Perspectives articles. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay curious.